My guest today is the editor-in-chief of the controversial Jalopnik.com. His name is Patrick George. He's going to be here to talk about Tesla, electric cars, and everything else that comes to our mind. I know a lot of you hardcore Tesla fans not very happy sometimes with Jalopnik because they do criticize Tesla and Elon Musk, something that I have done in the past as well, and will probably continue to do so if it is deserved. But today we're going to talk to him about why he is critical and his publication is critical of Tesla, and if they're all Tesla haters over there, or maybe they're just doing their job and reporting on what's actual news. All of this is coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, electric.
Welcome to all of those you guys who are watching me on Patreon Live. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you for helping me stay independent and stay in business, really. Thank you. And of course, if you're watching me on YouTube, please consider subscribing so you don't miss anything moving forward. Before I bring Patrick on, I just wanted to remind you guys that this show and this channel is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. And if you're going to shop there, go ahead and grab the discount code in the description of this video so you can save a few bucks. All right, guys, without further ado, editor-in-chief of Jalopnik.com, Patrick George. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Alex, thanks for having me on. How are you this evening?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm happy to have you on the show. When I was talking about having you on the show, a lot of people were a little upset. They some of the big Tesla fans are not that happy with you, especially in the last few months. Well, tell me why. Why are all these Tesla Elon Musk fans are not that happy with you at the moment?
I guess you'd have to ask them that. I don't know. We cover Tesla quite a bit, as do most automotive websites and news outlets that cover the automotive industry. And I think it's been pretty apparent that they've had quite a few challenges in the last few months, especially as they seek to ramp up Model 3 production. And I think a lot of the news coming out of the shop hasn't necessarily been great for them. As we were speaking before we started recording, that's my dog, sorry about him. We were speaking before we started recording, and you were asking, well, is the outlet anti-Tesla or is it pro-Tesla? And I'd say at Jalopnik, we're actually big fans of Tesla and what they've done. We've really enjoyed the cars specifically. I think we're pro-electric car. We are very much in favor of an electrified future. We're excited to see what other automakers are doing when they really get into this space earnestly, like Porsche and Audi. I don't think the auto industry should be closed off to new players and people with wild new ideas. And for the most part, I enjoy covering them, and I like Elon Musk and the news he generates. I do think that he's been in a difficult position the last few months of actually delivering on a lot of the promises he's made. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism comes from. It's been, we promised a great deal with Model 3, with the Roadster, with we're going to have rockets on the Roadster. We're going to send a car into space, and it's so awesome. And then we announced that we're not meeting our production goals and profits are down. I think I think we're trying to balance his showmanship with his ability to deliver actual financial results for the company and steer it towards a viable future, because it is in a very precarious moment right now. Musk himself would say that, and I think that's when you look at the news that's been coming out of it, it shows what a tough spot they're in.
Yeah, but so what is it? And I read your publication, and I know you cover not just electric cars, you cover all transportation, and I do feel like you guys are actually pushing for green energy, and you're excited when there's excitement to be had on the front of electric cars. And obviously I call it the movement that hasn't had the easiest time. We are still about 1% of global sales this year, maybe more than that. What is it about any type of criticism towards Tesla, which I have done, and Elon Musk, which I have done as well, that makes people just go nuts? Is that because it's kind of became more of kind of a cult? Is that because people are a little bit overprotective of the leader of the movement, if you will?
I think it's a bit cult-ish. I think that people really believe in Elon Musk. He's a very charismatic person. He does that Silicon Valley Steve Jobs kind of thing. The big presentations, the big ideas, the things that make you believe in the future. He's venturing into space. We're seeing him, get into different forms of public transit, like what they're doing in Chicago this week. And a lot of people like really believe in that mission. They see him say, here's the guy. He's trying to make things better. He's going to lead us to the future. And then there's another camp that's like, this is another Silicon Valley charlatan. It's an overvalued company. It's can he actually deliver on these things he's promising? Is software and algorithms and tech the answer to all of our problems in the future? Is there accountability? And I think some people, I've looked at that and they said no. And I think that's where some of the criticism comes from. So it is trying to balance that. Like some of the legitimately cool and exciting things that Tesla and Elon Musk and the company are doing with some of the areas where they've fallen short.
What, I'm wondering, like I've been in Silicon Valley for the last 25 years. When did we turn evil? When did Silicon Valley is no longer an advantage or like of a benefit when you're talking about it? It's more of a disadvantage at this point.
I mean, I think it's not limited to any one company. I think the backlash has been with Facebook and privacy in the last few years, with Uber and any number of issues with Uber. It's with acting like e-scooters are the answer to urban mobility and that we don't need to invest in public transit because of that. It's acting like software and algorithms are the answers to all of your problems. It's data breaches. It's just like, I think that a lot of the the magic is worn off in much of the country that looks at Silicon Valley. And you probably know this. It is an insular culture. I obviously don't live there. I only cover part of it. I think it sees itself as we're this entity that's out to make the world better and to change the world. And I think that like when these negative things happen, when these high profile failures happen, it changes the way people see technology and what's coming out of there.
Well, I literally just a few hours ago came back from Shanghai, China, where I was covering Byton's unveiling, but also CES Asia. And I was also talking to other reporters that were on a trip with us, staying at the hotel. And the mainstream automotive reporters were still under the impression that, Tesla, they might go belly up in another 2 months, any day now. Do you think Tesla is at any risk of actually going bankrupt?
Not in 2 months. I think let's see where we're at the end of the year. I'm hoping that for their sake, Model 3 production can ramp up to meet the goals it needs to be at, and that they can get them selling well and profitable. I would like to see that happen for the company. We have never been rooting for Tesla to fail, even when we've thought that Elon Musk is full of shit about certain things. Pardon my French. Like we've never rooted for the company to fail. I don't want to see that happen. And I hope that they can. Like, is it possible that they could go belly up, they go bankrupt in the next year or so? It's entirely possible, I suppose. And I think that even some of the investors who have been very very bullish on Tesla as of late have been a little more cautious. We've seen. I don't think the company itself would ever cease to exist. I don't. I think that there's a very strong possibility that its technology, the brand, or whatever, would be taken over by another company. Possibly Toyota, possibly Mercedes-Benz, something like that, and it would continue on in some form. Because I think that there's a big difference between Tesla and like Fisker, for example. That brand is very powerful. The technology it has is very powerful. It's a known thing. It's a recognized and respected thing. People liken Musk to Preston Tucker of the 1940s, but he's gone further than Tucker ever did, especially in the public consciousness. So I think that even if the company is to fail financially in the next few months, next year, whatever, that it would continue to exist somehow. I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think there is no way in hell. And I've been very critical of them and Musk in particular, but I don't think there's any way in hell they're going in bankruptcy. Just first of all, they're half a year late with the Model 3, but they're almost there. Secondly, last time they were trying to raise money, I believe they were offering lease securities, right? They were like 14 times oversubscribed. Their stock right now is still kind of haven't really fallen that much down, even in the worst times. To me, it's just not going to happen. But we're talking about Elon Musk as being the face of the company, almost a face of the movement. I just came from the Byton's their second car unveiling, their headquarter opening in Nanjing and so forth. And a lot of people are asking, well, how can a startup like Byton make it, right? Because I mean, they got a lot of things lined up. They just got $500 million in their funding and stuff. But can a startup company in automotive, which is most likely electric car company in the automotive industry, succeed without a showman, without the Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, or does it have to come with a show?
That's a really good question. I think there's two ways to look at that. I think there's the people who believe it's like Elon Musk, like shut up, stop tweeting, fix the car, and like the car and what it can do will speak for itself. On the other hand, it's like it has benefited from Musk's charisma and people believing in him, and the showman aspect of what he's done. Byton doesn't have that. Faraday Future certainly does not have that. And we're talking about a startup that's been beset with far more problems, and ones that are border on corruption. In fact, so I don't know. I think that especially call it the Steve Jobs effect, if you will. It's like some of these tech companies. I really think they do benefit from having this powerful, charismatic figure up top who can sell the product and be the hype man, the hype person. And I don't know, Byton doesn't have that. Like Byton, to me, it seems like they're doing, the car looks cool, the SUV and the sedan look cool, but it's like, it looks like any number of other electric startup cars that I've seen. Like all of them are designed by people who don't look like they care about cars very much. Like they care about design very much. They all look, they're very appliance-like. They've got big screens, they're electric, they promise autonomy. There's nothing sexy about it. There's nothing interesting about it. Like, speaking as like a car person, like there's very little that Byton or Faraday or some of the other ones do that's like really like blows me away. That really appeals to me. At least Tesla has a kind of sense of humor about what they do that I appreciate, like ludicrous mode and bioweapon defense mode. And he's talking about putting rockets on the Roadster. Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Like, he needs to get a lot of other stuff in order before he does that. But like, that's cool. That's fun. Like, there's when he wants to have the letter say sexy, like. There is an element of ridiculousness about Tesla, an American element of ridiculousness that I enjoy, and like you don't really see that from the especially the Chinese-backed startups. That just like it's a cultural difference, and it's just not quite as charismatic as we've seen from the other companies.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, I just interviewed both of Daniel and Karsten, who are president and CEO of different positions in the same company. And you're right. I mean, they're very knowledgeable and experienced, but I can't say that, oh my God, I'm going to release this interview. It's going to be awesome, right? It's going to be really entertaining. Yeah. Though I have to say, I always compare Tesla to an iPhone and everybody else to an Android. And iPhone had Steve Jobs, and Android didn't really have anything. It was just as good or good enough as iPhone. So if you were to make a guess, because sooner or later we're going to have the Android of electric car industry, which brand do you think will actually be able to be the Android to an iPhone, and when?
The first answer that comes to mind is something like the Chevrolet Bolt, honestly, not really one of the startups. Like, I think that the mistake that Silicon Valley made was writing off the traditional automakers and acting like, Detroit's a bunch of dinosaurs. They went bankrupt a decade ago. What do they know? We're smart. We can come in and disrupt. We can do it better. And then they found out that making cars is hard. It's incredibly hard. The overhead, the engineering, the sales aspect of it is very difficult. And I credit Tesla for both for their technology and for their market cap for forcing the traditional automakers to really start taking EVs seriously. I haven't driven a Bolt yet. I really want to, but everything I've heard about it has been positive, that it's an impressive vehicle. And I think that more and more from the so-called traditional automakers, you're going to be seeing some really interesting products and ones that are going to be, probably have like their build quality issues addressed up front in ways that the startups cannot.
I'm actually surprised you said Chevy Bolt, because I I would have thought Chevy is not very behind their brand, just simply because I don't see advertisement of Chevy Bolt. I mean, obviously they haven't really moved into Europe. I mean, they set their foot with the Opel brand and then just immediately retrieved, and their sales are they're Volt sales are higher than their Bolt sales. So I'm actually surprised you said that. But I do agree that it is going to be not Byton's or Faraday Futures of the world. It will be the main manufacturer. My money is on Nissan. And
Interesting.
just give you a quick example. I was walking through the San Francisco airport today, and I saw an ad. One of the walls, those ads on the wall, Nissan Leaf. They're advertising. They're behind it. So I think we're in the same ballpark there. But it will be interesting. Let me ask you another question that's kind of in the same sort of area. Do you think electric cars are better than gas cars at this point?
I think better is hard to qualify. I think that we're at a really great moment with EVs. Like a lot of they're better than they've ever been. Obviously, I believe the electric cars are the eventual future. I think that we'll see more and more so-called normal cars, SUVs, sedans, things like that, become hybrids. Standardized, like more and more hybrids, and then that will be the gateway to full-on EVs. Are they better? I mean, there are things that cars like the Tesla could do extremely well, and I mean, like a loaded Model S will shame a supercar in acceleration. If they can deliver on their promises with the Roadster, and again, that's a big if, it could be the greatest performance car in the world. I think that better isn't really the issue for me right now. I think it's like getting people to buy them. Getting a robust infrastructure in place so that people can charge them and then want to buy them. That's going to be the issue here,
I guess you kind of started answering my next question is, I mean, we both know that statistics are still not really in electric cars' favor. We're still between 1% and 2% in global sales. Yes, there's Norway that's just kicking butt, but generally speaking, electric cars is not a thing yet. Yeah. What do you think needs to happen for an average Joe? I don't mean in New York where you are, in Silicon Valley where I mean average Joe in the middle of America, to consider an electric car as their next purchase?
I've thought about this a lot, and I think it's a few things. For one, we need a greater availability from mainstream manufacturers of the kinds of EVs they sell, like the EV pickup trucks, EV SUVs, more than just, I mean, like the Bolt, from everything positive I've heard about it, it's a small hatchback. That doesn't meet a ton of Americans' needs. We also need a more robust charging infrastructure than we have, because it's still new. Americans have range anxiety. We buy cars that we expect to both grow the grocery store for us whenever we want and do a cross-country road trip for us, whatever they want. We buy one car, we expect that car to do everything, and they're still nervous about that. I think that also electric vehicle charging needs to get to the point where it's almost as convenient and fast as filling your gas tank. Again, as available as a gas station and as quick. There's a third one to this. Finally, oh yeah, I remember now. Gas prices need to go up. We're seeing gas go up right now, but it's not quite to that really dramatic point yet, where people would really say, you know what, gas doesn't work anymore. I can't fit this into my household budget. It's time to seriously consider an electric car. We're not there yet, but I believe that we will be. I'm not an energy expert, but I can read the writing on the wall. I hope everybody else can too.
I agree with all of it. I would probably add one more, if you don't mind, and that's we have to change the mind of people about where they're going to fuel their cars. Right now, people do not consider their homes as the source of fuel, obviously. They know they have to go somewhere and stand there and smell this crap and while buying $10 sandwiches and using filthy bathrooms. The reality of mine, I mean, I haven't driven I haven't owned a gas car in the last 6 years. To me, that 5 seconds that I take to plug the car in and another 3 seconds that I take to, that's the new refueling station for me, which I actually almost don't think about because I spend a few seconds a day on it, and sometimes I don't. I think that's what people need to kind of understand, and I think that might make a big difference because after all, most people will charge at home once the range of all cars become over 200 miles. So I would add that one more factor.
I read a thing once that said that like people need to start thinking of their vehicles the way they think of their cell phones. You charge it at home. You plug it in when you're not using it. You plug it in when it's low, probably at your home or your office. Once we do that, then you're right. Like you possibly eliminate much of the gas stations you need on the road, or at least you would need fewer charging stations. But yeah, you have to have that attitude shift in people that they're just not used to yet. But that will happen over time,
Yeah, I agree. The only question is when and what's going to happen, because I'm as we went through this list, right? There's no control over gas prices. The infrastructure is growing. I was just showing some of the footage of Ionity network that's growing in Europe. So we'll see what happens with that. But how much of the role do you think the governments with the incentives and infrastructure and so forth play the role right now, and do you think they should continue playing that role in order for us to move forward, or at some point the training wheels have to come off and people are going to have to buy electric cars for the price that they're being sold without any incentives?
I like the tax credit. I think it's a good thing. Most of the automakers that we've spoken to and we've quoted in the stories have said we're not there yet in terms of removing it. Like please don't get rid of the tax credit now. We're at a very precarious moment for EVs. Like all these automakers across the board are planning big electric onslaughts in the next decade. I think General Motors the other day, I don't know if this in front of me, but I think they said they're doing 20 EVs by either 2020 or 2023, something like that. It must have been 23 now that I think about it.
You know what? I don't pay attention to any of those numbers because they sell a lot of things, and I believe when I see it at this point, right?
Agreed. And it's like okay, even if you are planning for that, that's a lot of cars they're trying to sell, and like someone's going to need to be there to buy them. And I think that at least for now, like keeping that tax credit in place for sales is a good thing. And I think that's going to kind of push the market in the direction that it ultimately needs to go in. I mean, that's how I see it at least.
So let me ask you this. It's been a kind of a tough journey for electric cars, right? Sure. By the way, what do you drive? What's your daily driver?
I'm in New York City now as of over the past year. But when I moved here from Texas a year ago, I used to have a newer-ish Mini Cooper, and I had a 1985 BMW 3 Series. And I'm looking to buy something in the next few months, something just fun and cheap. And
oh really? Oh wait. Well, let's talk about that. Let's not move on. I'm going to ask you. Let me ask you that same last question. But what would it take you to consider an electric car in just a few months when you're shopping for one? And what are your, let's say, top 3 choices right now?
I would love for my next car to be an electric one, at whatever point that is. Like I said, like I'm a New Yorker. I'm driving. If I drive, it's mostly for pleasure or for fun, or when I'm reviewing a press car for this site. But I do want to own something because, like, it's a hobby for me. I like working on cars. I'm not a very good mechanic, but I like doing it. I just want something to get out of the city every now and then. I only wanted to pay a few $1,000s for something off Craigslist for fun, like some old BMW or Mercedes or what have you. But like eventually, like if it came down to like, okay, you're not in the city anymore. You're not in the worst city in America for cars like I am now. What would I consider an EV? Like I would love to at some point. I would definitely do it. I'd love to be in a position to do that. If they can iron out the issues with it, and get production at a meaningful level, and get rid of the problems. I'd love to own a Model 3. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be fun. I think I personally, because like I grew up a gearhead, like I run a gearhead website. I would still need like the old school internal combustion, like old car that I just like work on and tool around in and just have fun with as like the second car, just as my hobby. But like, I believe the future is going to be ultimately electric, and I'd love to get on board with that at some point.
Okay, well, so it looks like it's not happening with your next car, but possibly with the next car.
It would just get trashed in New York anyway. I mean, it would get beaten to hell. People would, destroy the bumpers. It would be very sad. Plus, we haven't really figured out yet. Like, you're a homeowner. You say you charge your car at home. I haven't heard a great solution for apartment dwellers to own
I'm
EVs.
not actually. I'm not. I live in an apartment complex where they did install Tesla chargers, and you're right. It is a problem, though. There is a law in California and other states where the homeowner associations and just any landlord requires, I think, under 10 parking spots are exempt, but the rest are required to install a charging station per tenant's request, but at tenant's expense.
Right, and you live in an apartment complex, and it's like, I don't live in an apartment complex. Like, in New York, your apartment's in a building, like it's above a ramen shop. Like, where do you put your state mandated EV charging stations in a place like that? We haven't figured that out yet. Like the big traditional American cities where, like, the way people live sort of predates cars. I haven't heard a good answer to that yet, but I mean, I'm hoping we will get to that point eventually.
It has been a problem, and even with Tesla Model 3 owners, that a lot of them actually do live in apartment complexes and not houses. I'm actually going to be moving to Sacramento, so I'll have my own place, then I'll be in charge. Pun intended, really. But, I'll tell you what. I would have loved to move out of the place where I'm at right now, just because I thought the rent went up way too quick. And the reason I had to stay was because I couldn't find another place with a charging station that is dedicated to my parking spot.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right about that.
Just run a 50-foot extension cord out your window and charge it that way. It's fine. Like, your neighbors won't mind. No one's gonna care.
Well, the problem is a Tesla, you can't charge the off of 110. You have to charge it for. Yeah. So it's going to be a really big cable from my dryer probably running down.
Yeah, sure. Just when you're not using the dryer, just plug that in. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm going to be doing at my new house. But yeah, you're right. The apartment complex thing, that the infrastructure for that needs to change. Let me shift really quick to I just mentioned I came from China, and it and I was at CES Asia, and a lot of people don't know, but top two Chinese companies, BYD and Bike, two Chinese companies, BYD and Bikes, are the top electric car / plug-in hybrid car sellers in the world, and nobody knows about it. China's been up there with some people really think they're a leader in electric cars. All the money that's being poured in there, a lot of incentives and so forth. I have to say that I didn't really see it with my eyes as much when I was there. But what do you think about China taking the lead on this? Do you think it could be a good thing, not a good thing, and could that be really a reality?
I mean, I hear from a lot of like older, more conservative buyers, like, why are these automakers going so big on electric cars? Like, we Americans don't want electric cars. And the answer is, like, it kind of doesn't matter what you want anymore, America. Like, we are the second largest car market now. China's leading the way. The country has completely unsustainable air pollution. Its government wants electric cars, and because of the way its government is set up, it can unilaterally push for those things in ways that, like, the American government cannot. So, like, EVs are happening in China, and that is a huge reason companies like Jaguar, Audi, Porsche, Chevrolet, whoever, are planning these big electric car pushes over the next decade. It's because they want to be able to sell in the biggest market in the world. It is for China, and America is all, I won't say an afterthought, but it's like we're not as crucial to that plan as the Chinese market is.
I can't agree with you more. Actually, when we were at the grand opening of their headquarters, we were bussed in, and we see all these cops, lots and lots of security, and we're like, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, this is there's a lot of city and government officials there because this whole thing is only being moved by the government. I mean, because that's the only way to go there. But things happen really fast. The reason they actually chose to go in production in China is because things can happen really, really quick." 6 months ago, right? They told us they got the land, they're gonna start building. Boom! We were already given a tour of the entire facility. The whole thing is up and running, and they saying we're gonna finish the whole thing by the end of the year. That wasn't gonna happen here. That fast.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing how these things can work when you don't have to worry about like democracy. You can just sort of get shit done a lot faster.
Yeah. Okay. Well, last question before I let you go. If you were to guess where we're going to be in 3 years, with electric cars, with Tesla in particular, with Chevy Bolt, who you believe will be a major player by then. I'm assuming GM in general. Where do you think we're going to be?
That's very hard to say. I think I could speak to where I'd like to see the market go, and that's like I would love to see Tesla sort out its issues. I'd like to see Elon Musk tweet less and like chill out a little bit, and maybe take some personal time and calm down a bit, and like get the company's issues resolved. They've got a larger, more diverse lineup, and they can say, you know what, hey, guess what, we did it. That'd be a great success story, and that would be something to emulate. I think we'll see a greater deal of hybrids in the marketplace. We'll see probably some of these, these EVs that are part of these big plans that everyone's planning. These, like I said, Jag, Audi, Porsche, Chevy. They're finally going to start hitting the market. I will be very curious to see what gas prices are like then, and what the infrastructure for charging looks like then, because like, if you have a big spike in gas prices, if they start rising steadily to the level they were at in, say, the 2000s or more, we could really start to see widespread EV adoption, and then that would be a cool thing to see, to move people in the right direction. Like I said, I run an enthusiast site. I'm a gearhead at heart, but and I will miss certain things about internal combustion engine cars when they inevitably lose out the majority of the market. Like, I'll miss engine sounds. I'll miss working on an engine. I'll miss the way that race cars sound. But it's like, for those things, well, that's what Craigslist is for. I think that we're hopefully going to be moving towards a transportation sector that has a greater emphasis on energy sustainability, and that's going to be good for the entire planet. And hopefully these things will be fun and worth driving. That's all I'm really hoping for, is that like the future won't just be autonomous electrified pods that we just dial in our destination and just we're shipped off, and there's no more enthusiasm when you drive. That's kind of what I hope won't be the case.
That's very interesting comment from somebody who is going to miss gas cars, and yet you still looks like you not only see the future with electric, but also kind of looking forward to it. That's pretty cool. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. I was looking forward to this for a while now, especially because people started saying how I should not have you on, and it only made me want to have you on. So I'm excited that we had this conversation. I'm looking forward to comments on this video. But for those of my audience who want to check out your publication, can you tell us a little bit more what is the main sort of scope of what you guys cover, and how they can find you, and what they can look forward to in the next for the rest of the year?
Sure. We're at Jalopnik.com. We are the internet's most read car enthusiast site. We have about 13 million global readers a month. We have a huge community of very informed enthusiasts, and we celebrate the cult of cars and everything that moves you. And we cover everything from new cars, old cars, vintage cars, to the future of transportation and how we get around. And we aim to do that with an honest and irreverent voice that nobody else has. And so if you want to come here and read a site that is passionate about cars and transportation but cuts through the bullshit, you should check us out.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I mean, every morning when I wake up, and I usually pick, I have 5 or 6 publications that I follow. I always check out yours, because you're right. The opinion is very honest and sometimes polarizing, because most of electric car publications, they're very pro-Tesla. It's really hard to get sort of an opinion. A lot of times I see you guys publish stories first before, or that you're the only ones who publish the story ahead of everybody else. I think the other day, I saw somebody who was criticizing your website, and yet 80% of the article was quoting from you who broke the story. So
yeah, I know the outlet you're talking about.
Right. So I thought it was very funny to see that. But
I hope their Model S and Model X referral code business is going extremely well.
Yeah.
We all got to eat,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they'll enjoy their free roadster. So, all right. Well, listen. On that note, I hope to have you. I hope to have you on sometime in the near future. I hope to meet you at one of the events, and maybe we'll have one of these in person. But Thanks for so much for coming on the show, and I hope to talk to you soon.
It was my pleasure, Alex. Let's talk soon. Take care.
All right, well, another interview that I definitely enjoyed. It's great to have different opinions here. You know, sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree with people who come on my show, but I think the most important part is to give a voice to everybody who has a reasonable, constructive opinion about the electric car movement, Tesla, Elon Musk, and so forth. And I think Patrick George has definitely done that. So I really enjoyed it. And just like I said, you guys check out the publication. It's really informative. It does break a lot of news that others just simply do not. Anyway, I'm hoping to bring him on at some point later this year to get his opinion on what's happening then. But that's it for me. Other than that, see you guys next time. And remember to stay charged.